All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's live interview in the Grow Your Midterm Rental Business group. Each week, we're going to be interviewing a new midterm rental host from across the country to talk about everything to do with midterm rentals, rental arbitrage, co-hosting, and just real estate in general. We already have some really great guests lined up for the next upcoming weeks, and I especially have an awesome guest lined up for today. Today we have Katie Lyon. Katie has actually spent over 10 years in the real estate and marketing industries. So she's a very experienced landlord and midterm rental host herself. And she's also the marketing director for the company Furnished Finder. Many of you probably already know her as the host of the Landlord Diaries podcast, and she's probably interviewed more midterm rental hosts than anybody else in the country. So we are super blessed to have her on as a guest today. Thank you, Katie, for hopping on, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Awesome. Katie, I have a ton that I want to talk with you about because there's just so many things to talk about. But first, I want to actually just ask you about your personal landlord and midterm rental journey. So I understand that you are operating, I believe it's 10 or 9 or 10 midterm rentals. So I want to hear about your journey and kind of how you've gotten to where you are now with midterm rentals.
Yeah. So we got our first rental property about 3 years ago. Our old house we turned into a long-term rental when we moved out of it. And after that, we were really we liked how that was going. We were really interested in getting some sort of a short-term rental or midterm. I had actually just started working at Furnished Finder, so I had not heard of a midterm rental before then. But
Wow.
I jumped into the deep end and I was like, okay, I'm just here to learn everything I can learn, read all the books. And then we made a quick detour, tried out a short term, but a hurricane and supply chain kind of ruined that for us. But it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise because then we jumped full in with midterms. Now we have 9 midterms and our long term. We'll be selling our long term this summer and using all of that equity to go more into midterms just because I really believe in the space and um, operationally it's been very feasible for me, which is great because like I said, I've got a full-time job, got a family, got pets, that got the whole work. So like I
Mhm.
really love how midterm is practical as
Right.
well. So yeah, we've been trying to scale as quickly as we can, but also smart.
Mhm.
So we've
Mhm.
been doing a lot of duplication and different types of properties within similar markets. So yeah, that's kind of how we got to where we are.
Holy smokes, that's so cool. So I didn't realize that
Thanks.
you actually started working for Furnished Finder first, and then you went and got your first midterm rental.
Yeah,
That's
we knew we wanted to do more real estate, and the short term side of things was really attractive just because of all the cash flow.
mhm.
Um, but then when you think about just like the riskiness of it and the workload of it, and I'm like, I'm gonna be doing turnovers, how many times a week and managing those, and it felt really, really daunting.
Right,
So then midterms kind of fell into my lap, and I was like, okay, this makes sense.
right. That's super cool. Could you tell me a little bit about your portfolio? Like what kind of properties are you operating and where are they all located?
Yeah, so these are all them right there.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
don't
nice.
know if you can see.
Oh, that's super
Um,
cool. Yeah.
this is like once we get a new property, it's like my little badge of honor that I get to get one printed and put up there. Um, so all of our midterm rentals are either a condo, a townhouse, or an apartment. They're all in the Midwest. I live in Denver, and it's much harder to cash flow, at least from the property type that we want here in this market.
Yeah.
So we've gone to the Midwest. I'm also from the Midwest, so all my family still lives there, and we kind of do this all as a group. So I have boots on the ground there, if you will. So it's very practical. We own 3 of our rentals. We arbitrage the other 7,
Oh
and
wow.
that's been really a great way that we can like keep the train moving without having to come up with a large amount of capital every time. Um, so that's been really nice. We've got one 3-bed townhouse, we've got a 2-bed condo, We have a fair amount of studios. The studios work really great. 3 of our studios are, like, quite literally identical because they worked so well. It was like, "Okay, this works great. Let's do it again."
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. I have, for example, I have a ton of my studio apartments that are literally identical.
Yeah.
Um, and I love it for a few reasons. One of them is that with the identical apartments, it helps me to be able to take midterm bookings that are further in advance. A lot of midterm
Mhm.
rental hosts don't want to take bookings in advance because it can screw up your calendar, which I totally get. But if you have a whole bunch that are identical, I can kind of
Right.
accept bookings that are in advance, and I could almost always fit them into the calendar in a way that makes sense and limits vacancy for me, but also allows them to be able to make that booking in advance. So
Yeah.
having a bunch of identical apartments, like in this, in the same building or something, I think is can be a pretty cool advantage.
Yeah. I actually did that yesterday. I had a nurse who had to leave her contract early because she got injured.
Oh,
And then I had one booking coming up, but since she can't had to leave early, it left like this big gap. And I had these
hmm
inquiries coming in, and I was like, okay, if I move this person down here,
hmm
and I asked her, like, out of courtesy,
yeah,
I was like, hey, do you mind if I move you
of course.
from this unit to this unit? You'll actually be a floor higher, and there's no going to be nobody above you. She's like, it's the same thing. Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Yep,
Like,
yep,
but it made it so I could kind of like mold the Play-Doh, and like you said, like it made it so everything could fit really nicely.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, I do the same thing. I let them know, say like, hey, would you be okay with moving to this unit? It's an identical
Yeah,
unit.
right.
It has little to no impact on your stay. It would just work. I'm straight up like it just worked better for us in our calendar. And
Yeah,
I've never had someone say like, no, that doesn't, that's,
right.
like not agree to it. So
Yeah,
yeah, no, seriously, that's great. And so you said you have 7 arbitrage.
yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
And
We've got 6 arbitrage with the same partner, and then we have 1 extra arbitrage with a second partner, which has been really great because, like, we already have the relationship, and
mhm.
anytime that there's an available property, I'm just like, "Hey, can I have that one?" And they're like,
Yep.
"Sure."
Yeah.
Like, it's mutually beneficial because they have no interest in having a furnished rental, it's just not their
hmm
business model. But for
hmm
me, I'm like, I'm a tenant that I pay on time, I take really good care of the property, they can count on me, I'm probably gonna renew,
hmm
like,
hmm
everything is
It's very
handled,
mutually.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No. Yeah. Like I have one landlord. I've got over 20 arbitrage units with one landlord.
yeah,
So
yeah, I mean, it makes it so easy.
yeah, seriously, exactly that. Wow. Okay. So cool. And one last thing I got to ask you is because I'm really enamored by these people, so many people who are doing like out of state investing. Because I'm all local, like my
Yeah.
whole portfolio is local. So, like, are there any like what challenges specifically, or anything that you've had to solve um, for like out of state investing? Like,
Yeah.
for example, like for me, like if I don't know what differences do you find like from out of state versus investing locally.
Yeah, I mean, our local property is a long term, so that one's, like, much more hands off anyway.
Right.
Um, but I would love to invest locally. I think I would just have to take a different approach to the midterms. I always tell people, I'm like, midterms can cash flow and work wherever you are. We just kind of have the strategy that we would like to have more doors that are smaller right now, and that might change in the future as we evolve. We'll probably start getting larger properties and less of them. So then we might look at Denver as a market opportunity. Um, but for us, it was very easy entry in the Midwest, which we liked. It's You just have to have all your systems together, right? Like because I can't just run over there.
Right.
So I have to really have like really good pictures help me out a lot. Like not only do the pictures help with marketing, but they help me like I can know exactly what's in each property. Um, I ask tenants like when they move out, like, hey, send me a picture of the keys in the lockbox because then I know they're there. There's one property we have that's we kind of tested out the theory of having it further from all of us. So it's a 2.5 hour drive for my family to get there. So it's like if they had to go there, they could, but it'd be very inconvenient.
Right.
And the trick we've had there is we have a really good cleaner, and we have someone we know in the area, and we don't even know them well.
Mhm,
But it's
mhm,
just like this layer of protection. So it's like my sister's friend who she went to college with, and she's like doesn't even like keep in touch really with her, but it's like she has a spare key. If anything ever happens, like we know we have that kind of backup level. But I think it's just really like knowing your systems, like what does the keypad look like?
mhm,
Where's the mailbox? Like these questions that there's 2 or 3 of our properties that I've actually never been to. My family went and furnished them and I just kind of instructed them on FaceTime. But when someone messaged me like, "Hey, where is the area where I go take my dog out?" I'm like, "I actually let me
don't
ask my brother." And I'm not going to tell them that, right? But
Yeah, of
like
course. Yeah, yeah.
you need to like really get a sense of where you're at. So that's been the biggest thing, but the cleaner's huge. The cleaner's
Mhm,
really big.
mhm, mhm. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So it sounds like it's basically just having a solid team and having good systems in place is really what it comes
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. And that's one reason also that we've gone with like condos and apartments and townhouses too, is I don't have to worry about the lawn. I don't have to worry about snow removal. I don't have
Yeah,
to worry about any of that, which is
yeah,
really, really nice when it comes to being out of state. I'm like, I don't want to have to worry about getting someone a shovel and making sure that it's completed every time.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, Katie, this past week we were just at the Midterm Rental Summit. I had a great time, and I wanted to ask you, like, what were some of your main takeaways that you got from the summit? And yeah, well, what were some of your main takeaways from the summit?
Yeah. I mean, I think as a landlord, the biggest takeaway was just like this space is big, but it's still so early, and
Hmm.
how important networking is and how important it is to be able to find people in the space that you can rely on. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm lucky because the position I'm in and working for Furnished Finder, like you said, like I've gotten to interview so many midterm rental hosts, but like I what that's given me and what events like the summit can give you is if something goes wrong or I kind of get stuck in my business, I have layers of people I can ask. And I know that they'll help me out just because they know I would help them out. Like I know if I ever got in a pickle and I texted Christian, I'm like, "Hey, here's my situation. What would you do?" Like
Hmm.
he wouldn't you like you'd answer me, you'd call me, you'd text me back because you know I do the same thing back. And that is very much the culture of the industry that I
Yeah.
love. I think it's also just become really apparent in the industry that like the more kind of you have your systems regulated and kind of like all buttoned up, the more opportunities will come about for you. And that just there are a lot of resources. So just not to be shy to look out for those. From Furnished Finder side, because I was there for Furnished Finder as well, it was nice to see how the platform is still like we have so much improvement we can do and we're working on it and we're going to do,
Mhm.
but it's still just impacting people's businesses so much. So that's great to see that like there literally is only up, right? Which is a cool space to be in an industry.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, I know I use Furnish Finder in my business every single day. And I know everyone else at that summit pretty much does the same. It
Yeah.
was funny, while I was at the summit, I was watching other people on their laptops and they're all on the Furnish Finder website responding to
Right?
messages and stuff.
Yeah. But it was like good to see that because I feel like half of what we preach is that like you need to be active, right? You need to be in there and doing things and working the system and messaging and using the platform. And really, when we see people who are struggling, a lot of times it's because they're not. So I was like, okay, everybody's in there, like doing what they're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, of course. No, and everyone that's like at the summit or people that are watching this, like they are probably more so the type of people that are being very
Yeah.
active and using Furnish Finder the way that it's kind of intended to be being
Right.
used. But I know I'm sure a lot of people that maybe struggle with the platform probably aren't logging in every day or probably aren't,
Right.
like taking advantage of the tenant leads. For me,
Right.
one of my favorite things about Furnish Finder is the tenant lead section because
Yeah.
there's no really other website where landlords have the opportunity to reach out to the tenants first. Like Furnished Finder
Yeah.
is the only one that I know of that does that. Airbnb, the guest has to message me first, or
Right.
even like Zillow, they have to message me first before I can respond to them.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that about Furnished Finders. Like you have the tenant leads where I can be proactive and go out and get the lead, and get the tenants in my place.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We give
so
you it's just so you have so much more control, right? Like everybody says, take control of your future and make some actions. It's kind of like on a lot of the direct booking platforms, you put your stuff up and you just kind of you wait and you hope, right?
mhm,
Which is fine.
mhm,
It's just a different strategy. But with Furnished Finder, it's like, no, we let you go in and you can reach out and you can modify things and you can like we're not trying to make it overly complicated and like some
mhm,
insane algorithm. Like we just want you to be able to find tenants, right?
yeah.
So it's we're much more trying to just make the
Give
connections and
Yeah,
like we're
no,
not trying to just take control of the whole transaction. Like
no,
you
really,
guys do what you want to do. We just want
mhm,
to connect it. Yeah.
you're giving the autonomy to our business
Yeah.
back to the business owner. Whereas
Yeah.
all the other platforms, Airbnb, they're trying to take your autonomy away from
Right.
you.
Right.
You have to understand how much it pisses me off when I have when something like happens in an Airbnb and someone brings it up to Airbnb, and then I have somebody who is not in the same country as me. Like you have an Airbnb rep who is on the other side of the world, probably getting paid $4 or $5 an hour, which is
Right.
fine, right? But they're getting paid $4 an hour and they're making business decisions on behalf of me while I'm trying to run a multi-million-dollar business.
Right.
And you have someone in the Philippines or wherever that's making decisions on my business on my behalf.
Yeah.
So I really
It's
appreciate that about Furnished Finder is that you give
right.
me the autonomy as the business owner to make the decisions that I need to make.
And that's how it should be, right? Like it's your business. You need to be able to draw the leases and do the screenings and everything how you want to do it, right? Like you should be able to play by your own rules. It's really frustrating, like on Airbnb, these people, and I have my listings on there because I want to see the difference, right?
Mhm.
But I want to talk to people that are going to be staying in this property for 90
Sure.
days, right? You're not coming for 4 days. I want to talk to you. I want to
Mhm.
just make sure that you are a real human, and I can't even do that. All I can do is chat.
Yeah,
So for
yeah,
me,
yeah.
that's really hard. Like if you get a scammer, that's 3 months of your calendar that could be gone.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm the type of person where I'm like, I like to make my own best practices. And I'm like, I like to pick up the phone or I'll FaceTime or just text
Mhm.
or like just something where like you can really validate who this person is and what the relationship will be like.
Yeah. No, seriously. So, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I use Airbnb. I get a lot of bookings through Airbnb,
Yeah.
and they do. I would say the main advantage for me right now is Airbnb has so much traffic. But I think
Right.
as you guys at Furnished Finder continue to grow and continue to implement some of the changes that you guys are doing, you're going to start taking more and more of that business away from Airbnb.
Yeah.
Um, which
Absolutely.
actually, yeah, which brings me to the next thing I want to talk about is that you guys have a new CEO at Furnished Finder. His name is Jeff Hurst, and I believe he
Yep.
was the senior vice president at Verbo.
This is the president of Verbo.
He was okay, president
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Verbo. He also spoke at the MTR Summit. I thought he did a great job on stage. He really had a great presentation because he talked about, he acknowledged, I think, some of the shortcomings or some of the
Hmm.
struggles that Furnished Finder is dealing with right now. But also he shared like what you guys are, all the changes that are coming in the next
Right.
1 year, 2 years, and how you guys are going to continue to improve the platform. And he also gave some great data for us, like on like market research and stuff. I love to
Yep.
see that he had Rochester, New York, as one of the top five mid-sized cities that has the biggest discrepancy between
Hmm.
demand and supply. And that got me interested because Rochester, New York is just an hour away from me in Buffalo. And so I was like, oh, that might be my next market
Might have
opportunity.
to.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
think that's the other cool thing about, how we're saying take autonomy and everything. You could even go to a really saturated market, and if you are a top-notch landlord or business owner, even if you have one property, right? Like there is space in this market for you. Like we're so far from being oversaturated in general, and there's going to be more and more travelers that are coming, and we're working in a digital age now, right? Like you and I are both working from home right now. I mean,
yep.
there's space that everybody's going to start. This is going to become such a more common thing to just start including travel. I've had actually less medical professionals, and I've had people traveling to the Midwest, mind you, for like the most interesting reasons, right?
Mhm.
Someone was going to spend time with a sick family member. I had
Mhm.
a set of grandparents that were going to spend the summer with their grandkids, right? Like it's not just medical professionals anymore. But yeah, there's tons of space. We're going to be coming out with a lot more data because we know everybody loves the data.
Mhm.
But I just encourage everybody, I'm like, don't get caught up in the data because data can give you analysis paralysis so quickly. And it's like, there is space for you, especially if you do it well, right? That's
Seriously.
the biggest differentiator. And that's what, if you look at Furnished Finder, you can tell who does it well. And on Airbnb, you might not be able to tell kind of as well, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, there's definitely room for everybody, but I think Rochester popped up. I don't remember some of the other ones, was like Boston one.
Mhm.
But we're like really having the chance with Jeff and kind of some of the new leadership that's come in to like unveil a lot of this data, and like we're discovering it too, and it's really cool, and we're super excited to start sharing it with everybody.
Seriously, yeah. No, and I say the same thing as well. That when it comes down like to what market to pick, I feel that a lot of people get really caught up in the trying to figure out the data and the numbers, and a lot of
Yep.
times it's like, dude, it's really as long as you do it well,
Right.
especially with arbitrage, it's more about like just building the relationships. I just tell people like go where you're comfortable, or
Right.
go where you have maybe either some sort of strategic advantage, like it's a place that you've been or a place that you have lived, or you have relationships, or you have people in that area.
Hmm.
Um, but don't get caught up too much into the data or numbers. It really
Right.
like can work almost anywhere across the country.
It can.
You
It
know.
can, right? Especially because there's so many different, like there's families, there's insurance, there's corporate housing, there's all sorts of different use cases. It's like you can flex that business plan however you need to fit the market, right?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
people ask me all the time, Buffalo, what's going on there? Well, yeah.
I know. People that ask me, they're like, where mine are like, they're like, is there something? I'm like, no, there's nothing special there. But people
No.
are going everywhere. You don't have to
Mhm,
have like a vacation market, right? You just
mhm.
need to have a market. That's
Yeah,
it. Just pick a
that's it.
market.
That's it. Seriously. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no real secret sauce to it all.
Yeah.
Um, but so back to Furnish Finder. So you guys have a new CEO, you guys have a new leadership team, and it seems like your staff has like increased by an incredible amount in the past
Yes.
couple months.
Yeah.
So like, what are some of the changes that are going on at Furnish Finder? Has anything changed in your day to day at Furnish Finder, and just what are some of the things that like you're excited about?
Yeah.
Somebody at Furnish Finder.
I mean, Jeff has come in to this with such a vision and like what he sees for the midterm industry, and just he sees the potential of Furnish Finder, and he's grown companies before, right? Like he's been at HomeAway, he's been at Verbo, and he knows the path, right? And he knows how to make Furnish Finder as successful as possible for all the landlords and for all the tenants. That it's been pretty incredible to see what's been done in just a few months. He's brought in new leadership that, same thing, like they are experts at what they do. And there's like so many plans for awesome updates, which is so overdue, but for so long, we've just been, like, trying to tread water, right? Like, we've just been trying to, like, meet the demand and help everybody that we could and, like, just stay afloat, and I'm like, "Okay, now we have the team and the support and everything. So now it feels like we can really make those strides forward. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's behind the scenes for a while that users might not realize is a huge improvement, but it is. And the fact
Mhm,
that you don't realize it is good because it means that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
mhm,
But then there's going to be a lot of user interface upgrades. There's going to be some new tools offered. There's going to be just more data introduced. Like the whole goal is to make it work better, faster, easier for us landlords and for the tenants, right? As much as Furnished Finder is a platform where you have to be on it to be successful, the goal is that you don't have to be on it as much because it's so successful. So I have no doubt that we'll get there. And already the stuff that we've done has just been like, oh, this is so cool. Look at what we've done, right?
mhm, mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so yeah, right now it's kind of like every day is different, which I love. And I think that'll kind of be the story for a while, just while we kind of say, okay, what's first priority? What are we doing next? But what won't change is just kind of my involvement with the landlord community and reaching out and trying to give that education, which is my favorite thing ever. So thankful for that.
Mhm.
um, so yeah, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And I know
No.
everybody, like, every time we roll something out, everybody's gonna be like, "Yes, it's
Mhm.
here," right? Because, like, we're overdue. We are
I know
overdue.
it. Yeah. No, people are hungry for it. So, and I think you guys are like, you're in the right market, you're doing something special. And it sounds like you're finally just getting the resources and the stuff you need together to be able to like really fulfill on the potential that is Furnish Finder. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's really
yeah,
what it
I'm
is.
excited for you guys. I think you guys are going to be great. Thank you, by the way, for my Furnish Finder
Oh,
backpack. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm super excited for it. I'm going to be um, wearing it. I was wearing it around the summit, and everyone was like, "Where'd you get that? How'd you get that?"
And you're like, "Yeah, I have secret access."
She's like, "Well, yeah."
I
And
love backpacks. My dog actually likes to eat them, so anytime I
oh
have
well,
extra backpacks, I'm like, "You can't use an extra backpack. Your dog can have a snack." 'Cause
yeah,
my dog, like, she doesn't chew anything except backpacks.
that's funny. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Katie, I haven't seen any comments come in yet in the group, which concerns me because that's not typical. So I
Hopefully it's
don't.
working.
So hopefully it's working. I really hope that we're actually live. I'm really not sure, to be honest.
Well, if
Um,
not, it can
if
go up
not,
later.
hopefully we'll post the recording. I mean, if you
Yeah.
guys are watching this and you can see us, please put in some comments so that I know that you're alive and here.
Would it
Like,
show up just on the feed? I've got the feed in another tab, and I don't
yeah,
see
let's check the feed. I'm gonna check the feed because I'm not seeing any comments yet. And I'm not seeing anything in the feed either. Let's see. Uh, Newest activity. Yeah, I have no idea. It says that we're live here, but I have no idea if it's actually streaming. We'll just continue
Alright.
as.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys, I don't see any comments. So if you're asking comments, I'm not seeing them. So I won't be able to ask any of your questions. We're just going to continue as is. And then
cool.
after we'll figure it out. We'll see what's going on. Um,
Sounds good.
okay, well, Katie, then I have one other thing I want to ask you about. You are obviously the host of the Landlord Diaries, which is probably the largest podcast specific for midterm rental hosts, and you've probably interviewed more people in the country. I'm curious, like, if have you learned as someone who I'm starting my own podcast or my own interview, like,
Yeah.
are the main takeaways that you've gotten over the past like 80 something interviews, or anything in particular that you've gotten out of doing those interviews?
I feel like every interview I walk away with, like, a couple of things that are, like, light bulb moments for my own rental business, right?
Mhm.
And it's really interesting because I think one of the main takeaways that I've had is like everybody has something, right? And that's what's so important about a network is like you can't be great at everything. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I know like if I'm looking to integrate Monday or to create like a tracking system, I'm going to ask Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I know, if I'm going and I want property management help, I'm going to ask Grace and Amelia. Like, I think there's areas where everybody shines. And if you try to do it alone, it's going to be really difficult. But if you can get in there and you know your own value, right?
Right.
That's the trick to networking is like, if you can say, hey, so and so, I listen and I saw you're so great at this. Like, I would love your help. If it's any trade off, like, I think I'm pretty good at XYZ and I'm happy to like offer any insights I have with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's also just that like we're still learning, right? And every single person in this space, I don't care how big you are, how much money you are making, how
Mm-hmm.
many doors you have, I do not care.
Mm-hmm.
There is still space for you to become a better midterm rental operator. And
Absolutely.
nobody we've interviewed has it all figured out. Even the people that you look at in this space and you think, oh, they have it all figured out. Nobody has it all figured out. Nobody,
Nope. Mhm.
right?
I
And I
know
think
all
that is right. And like I think that's like the trick to imposter syndrome is like, don't you can't think that everybody else is just like you. Like we're
that. Mhm.
all trying to figure it out. Um, and take one thing at a time because it can be a little overwhelming to try to figure out all the different type things all at once. But like you can work on things and progress forward at the same time, right? But like nobody has it all figured out. Nobody. Like
Yeah.
we have not talked to one single person who is like,
Mhm.
I got this whole thing mastered. And if they did, I'd be like,
We call him a liar.
you are a liar, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's okay, right?
Mhm.
That's why we all lean on each other and grow. So I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway. And also it's not to get overwhelmed. Like just work on one thing at a time. If you try to
Mhm.
do it all, it's not going to work so well, but like one thing at a time, make it better and then keep growing,
And then move
right?
on.
And
Yeah.
we're all going to learn lessons the hard way and the easy way sometimes, but
Mhm.
that's how you grow, right?
Yeah. No, seriously, yeah, you've said it better than I could have. I feel the same way in my business. I'm always just like, man, I just try things and see how
Right.
it goes. And then, if it works, great. If it doesn't, okay, why not adjust,
Yeah. You tried,
and then
right?
just improving things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, yeah. So that
It's
makes
like
sense.
problem solving and being creative.
Yeah. So I think that's what I'm most looking forward to with starting this new like podcast interview thing, whatever this live stream thing is. Just getting to it's I think just to talk and meet with so many different operators and just
Yeah.
getting to grow my network in that way. And yeah, it just gives me a good excuse to interview people that I look up to. So
Yeah. No,
it's cool.
it's awesome. I think we can all like get better together and we can all help evolve the space into what we want to make it. And we also like have the opportunity to really shape this industry, right? And up until now, it's been a very community centric, like we all help each other get better
Hmm.
feel and we can take ownership of maintaining that while it gets larger because it's not like short-term rentals where we're like scrounging for every listing we can, right? Or we got to get our average daily rate up. I'm like, this is so much more simple.
Hmm.
Um, that it's totally different. So
Yeah.
there's space, right?
Seriously, yeah, it's much. Yeah, that's what I love about this community is it's so collaborative, as opposed to like competitive, and it
Yeah.
actually serves you as a host to be collaborative. Like I give leads
Yes.
away all the time to other people because if I can't host someone, I can't host them, right?
Right.
But if I could be of service to that guest and give that lead to another landlord, I just know that in the future that's going to serve me because then that landlord can send me leads in the future that they can't host. And then also, even sometimes I get leads from tenants that never even stayed with me because I was able to help them stay somewhere else. And then that tenant said, hey, by the way, I have a coworker. You have anything coming up, that fits this criteria? So, that's just to say the nature of this business actually incentivizes collaboration, which is really cool.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. Which is, it's great because then we can all, learn and grow our businesses together too, and just really keep taking the space where it's going to go.
Yeah, seriously, man. It's fun. From the MTR Summit, I already have someone who sent me 2 leads in Buffalo that
That's
are
awesome.
two people in Buffalo that are looking for housing. So I sent her a couple of my properties, and we'll see what happens.
That's
with
amazing.
that. Right? It's been like 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, she calls me and says,
awesome.
hey, what do you have?
You're like, okay.
Yeah, awesome. Seriously.
Yeah,
So,
that's
super
amazing.
cool.
I love it.
So, Katie, it's a bummer that we don't have any questions going on in the chat. I don't know if I mean. I don't know
if questions come up because I think it's not live, but when you post it, if there's questions, just tag me.
Okay.
And I'm happy to hop in and at least answer them with text. Because I think this is so cool. What you've done is just put everybody together in one group because there's there's so much to learn, but it's also just, I think the key is just trying things and taking action and just play with it, right?
Yeah.
Like the key is problem solving. Even if something big goes wrong, just get creative and you find a solution, right?
Yeah.
It's not always black and white, but there's always a way to figure it out.
That's great. That's awesome. So, Katie, thanks so much for offering that. So if you guys have questions when you're watching this video, feel free to put them in the chat, and Katie and I will both respond to them. Katie, thank you so much for your time here today. It was awesome to get to speak with you. I'm really looking forward to how you develop as a landlord and what you do, and then also what Furnished Finder does, because it sounds like you guys have some big changes in the way. So I'm super looking forward to it all. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you all next week. Peace.
Thanks, guys.